Greetings to all. Today I will share universal Dharma teachings for the liberation from suffering. Let us understand why we continue to cycle through samsara, birth, aging and death in this way. When our physical form dissolves, what remains is only mind and its manifestations. The mind and its manifestations seek out new physical forms. When acquiring these new forms, they only remain viable for a limited duration. Whether inhabiting the bodies of aquatic creatures, land animals, subterranean beings, aerial creatures, or even humans, these physical vessels are merely temporary. These bodies serve only as transient dwellings. We can comprehend this truth, yet we continue to mistakenly attach ourselves to these impermanent vessels. No matter how well we care for this body, it remains transient. We understand this truth, yet when this body ages, do we not suffer along with it? When illness strikes, do we not become distressed with its ailments? When this body ceases to function, we long for it. As long as our mind does not truly know itself, it will continue to depend on its conditions and physical form, endlessly seeking new vessels. Do you know that we have been born as everything? As creatures of water, land and air, and even as humans? We have taken all these forms, though we cannot look back to witness these past lives. We change our bodily vessels just as a hermit crab changes its shell. When one shell is outgrown, we seek another. After finding a new shell, soon enough we must change it again for yet another. We keep changing vessels endlessly. Have we ever asked ourselves what we are truly seeking? We already know that this body is born only to age, fall ill, and ultimately die, do we not? Everybody in this world is born to experience illness, grow old and pass away, is it not? So, what are we really seeking here? The essential truth is this. Do you know that our mind has never been born and has never died? Our mind neither comes nor goes, is neither dark nor light. Our mind is a pure element, completely clear and empty. Do you know this pure element? Try to erase all stars in the universe, erase all suns in the cosmos, erase all black holes, erase all darkness and light throughout all universes. Do you know what remains? When we remove all physical elements, both darkness and light, and every form of energy, no matter how we attempt to remove them, one nature remains. This nature is the empty, pure element. Can you envision this? This pure, empty element is the original element, the primordial source before all things came to be. This pure, empty element has always been present, and this element has never become anything else. It cannot be erased. Can you picture this? We can erase everything else, but there is one thing that cannot be erased, this pure, empty element itself. In this pure emptiness, where nothing exists, there is no coming, no going, no distance, and no time. This is the nature of our mind. If we remove our physical form, what remains are the mind and its manifestations. And if we remove the mind's manifestations, do you know what these are? They are sounds, mental images, arising emotions, and the state of awareness. Right now, you can hear sounds, can you not? There is awareness, the state of perceiving sound. Let us remove all these manifestations, remove the physical form, remove all states of mind. What remains is only the pure, empty element. We are this element. This understanding may be something we have never heard before. This pure, pristine, empty element has no name, for it is unconditioned, is it not? Even this speaking sound does not exist there. Imagine if this sound disappears, all becomes silent. The images we visualize, like cockroaches, spiders, or chickens, erase all these images completely. No speaking is possible, not even in a speech. All sound vanishes. Remove all sounds. The images appearing in the mind, erase them all. And emotions too, remove all emotions completely. Neutral feelings, peaceful feelings, joyful feelings, sorrowful feelings, erase them all. There remains awareness. Now remove even that state of knowing. What is left? Nothing remains except pure emptiness. This is our mind. Who can understand that we are this pure, empty element? Nothing else is truly us. Everything else is merely an instrument of our pure element. We are the pure element. Everything else is merely its instrument. Sound is just an instrument, a natural phenomenon, a manifestation, a function of the pure element. Mental images are instruments of the pure element. These thoughts we have. Emotions are instruments of the pure element. The state of awareness itself is an instrument of the pure element. In essence, these instruments, even the body is an instrument, are what our mind dwells in. Our mind, which is the pure, empty element, is using these instruments for what purpose? To create conditions and learn about everything, including learning about itself. Our mind, this pure element, without instruments, cannot know or understand itself. It's like trying to explore the underwater world. Without proper tools, we cannot dive into those depths. Similarly, do you know why we are born? Our pure element uses these instruments, sounds, mental images, arising emotions, the state of awareness, to assign meaning to all experiences and to learn about everything. When the mind dwells in these manifestations, we begin to construct and claim ownership. This is our body. The next point is, do you know that the mind, which is this pure, empty element, is not human? In fact, we have never been human. Who can understand this? Our pure, empty element is our true fundamental nature. This pure element cannot learn about things without creating instrumental manifestations such as sounds, mental images, emotions, and these states of awareness. Now that we have these manifestations and instruments, we forget ourselves through them. We forget that we are the pure, empty element, instead dwelling in these instruments, sounds, mental images, emotions, states of awareness. Yet these instruments are natural phenomena, simply performing their functions, with no true owner. No one owns this sound. If we can understand this, we begin to grasp the principle that liberation from suffering is about this. The reason we suffer? Because we cling to the notion that this body is our own, we suffer and become restless. Because we cling to sounds, mental images, arising emotions, and all these perceptions as being self, we experience suffering and happiness, identify as humans and beings, and become entangled in this instrument. We desire pleasant feelings, but do you know that pleasant feelings are merely one side of the coin? A coin always has both heads and tails. We desire the heads, but tails inevitably remain part of that same coin. When we pick up the coin, we always get both heads and tails. Do you understand this point? When the mind, which is an empty, pure, and clear element, attaches itself to sounds, clings to mental images, or holds onto emotions, whether they be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, whatever feelings we are currently clinging to, even in our awareness, we cling to this state of knowing. We believe that when hearing a sound, it is we who hear it, though in truth, it is not us who hears. The mind naturally performs its function of perceiving sound through its own nature. We open our eyes and can see everything. This is the perceiving mind. The mind knows things through 5 windows, through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, and it can also perceive the conditioned states arising within the heart. Try speaking in your mind, say, I want to eat noodles, grilled chicken, steamed vegetables, chili paste. Try speaking in your mind and notice both sound and images appearing within. But here's the point. Our mind, our consciousness, has no mouth, correct? It has no mouth, and it has no drawing tools either. Yet, why can we hear speech within and visualize images as well? Try imagining a white rabbit with long ears. Try thinking of a chicken. It could be roasted or boiled. Just try imagining it. Try thinking of your parents. Do you see how all these images appear in the mind? Do we realize that our mind is simply lost in these conditions, dwelling in these states? It doesn't recognize that it is pure essence. It merely dwells in these conditions as sounds, images, emotions, and this state of knowing, only to learn about itself. As long as our mind, which is an empty, pure and clear essence, does not recognize itself and remains deluded in believing these conditions are self or believing this body is self, in truth there has never been a self born into this world. Have you ever heard something like this? Do you think the mind has gender? The mind has neither male nor female gender. The mind has never been born and has never ceased, like the clear emptiness in the infinite universe. If everything were erased completely, only clear emptiness would remain. This clear emptiness is a metaphor for our mind. Our mind is a clear, empty essence, a living essence of great clarity. It creates conditions as instruments for formation and learning, like wearing diving gear to explore underwater. But we don't need this suit. We want to see what's in the water. When we have seen, we surface and remove this suit, for it is merely an instrument. Similarly, sound is merely an instrument. Mental images are merely instruments. Arising emotions are merely instruments, and this state of awareness is merely an instrument. All these things function on their own. The point is, we have become lost in these instruments, lost in attachment to sounds, mental images, emotions, and states of awareness. Then we form and cling to the notion that this is our body. We are male or female. But do you know that the mind is a pure, clear, empty essence? The mind cannot be male or female, nor can it be a person. Whoever understands this point has grasped something profound. Now, when we grasp this point, when this body dies, supposing it grows old, becomes ill, and then dies, our mind, which still dwells in these conditions, envelops itself. Try imagining blowing a soap bubble. In that emptiness inside the bubble, this metaphor represents the mind. The mind is the clear, empty essence within that bubble. The transparent membrane that envelops itself represents these conditions. Here, the mind creates this membrane. This metaphor is given to help you visualize it more easily. Reality is not quite like this, but we must use metaphors so we can envision it. For the nature of mind transcends language and exists beyond words. Let me illustrate. Imagine dissolving this physical form, releasing all sounds, mental images, arising emotions, and every trace of sensory perception. What remains is mind as pure, empty essence. Yet this mind still lacks wisdom, until this pure, pristine emptiness realizes its own nature as pristine emptiness and sees how it dwells within. It then recognizes these instruments of sounds, images, emotions, and awareness as mere tools, seeing that these instruments are not our true self. Once we see these instruments are not our true self, why do we still rely on these elements? If we simply observe, imagine we are sitting on the house porch, then a gecko's loud call suddenly rings out nearby. The gecko's sound startles us. In that moment of hearing the gecko's call, in that instance of perception, if we become aware that the sound knows itself. In that moment of awareness, we realize that knowing knows itself, and we experience a sudden profound awakening to this truth. Tears may flow as we witness our mind breaking free from conditioned phenomena. The key point is that our mind simply didn't know it was pure essence. It had created these conditions as instruments, then fabricated and clung to this body as another tool. When our pure essence hears this Dharma, the Dharma I shared in episode 3 of Universal Dharma for Liberation from Suffering, in this episode 3, I will point out clearly for you to see and understand how our mind works. This is our true nature. Once we firmly grasp this key point, we realize that our suffering comes from attachment to this body and these conditioned phenomena. When pure essence attaches to these phenomena, it becomes trapped in the cycle of fabricated thoughts, and this is why we continue to suffer until this day. Whenever we dwell within this body, the body's nature demands that we seek food to sustain it. From waking until sleeping, we are consumed with finding nourishment for the body, showing that this body is the master while we have become its servant. We have become servants of the body. I want to tell you that we are pure, pristine, empty essence, the primordial element. The body is merely an instrument, not our master. The body is born to age, sicken, and dissolve. It is not our master. In truth, the body is our servant. When we see that this body is not our true self, we will no longer suffer with the body. Now here's a simple point. Regarding this body, let's look at the left leg. What tells us this is the left leg? Let me ask you. The voice we're speaking with right now, this voice says, here's the left leg. This voice says, here's the right leg. It relies on this voice speaking. The point is, the leg doesn't say it's a leg. It doesn't say whether it's left or right. Now here's a simple point. Regarding this body, let's look at the left leg. What tells us this is the left leg? Let me ask you. The voice we're speaking with right now, this voice says, here's the left leg. This voice says, here's the right leg. It relies on this voice speaking. The point is, the leg doesn't say it's a leg. It doesn't say whether it's left or right. Our mind is pure, pristine, empty essence. Our mind dwells in these conditions as instruments of learning, but these conditions are not us. The speaking voice is not us. Mental images are not us. Arising emotions are not us. This knowing itself is not us. All these are merely phenomena. This knowledge we have never heard before. We are born and become lost in dwelling within this body, then struggle from waking until sleeping to find food to sustain the body, consumed with seeking material elements to nourish and care for the body. And this happens every time we are born. When this body dies, we are reborn. Imagine being born as a fish, crab, chicken, pig, or bird. We have been born as everything. Remember that when this body dissolves, mind seeks a new body. Which body we receive depends on how we have conditioned ourselves. When we get a new body, that body too doesn't last long. When this body dies, we are reborn. Imagine being born as a fish, crab, chicken, pig, or bird. We have been born as everything. Remember that when this body dissolves, mind seeks a new body. Which body we receive depends on how we have conditioned ourselves. When we get a new body, that body too doesn't last long. From birth to death, whether caught by humans or passing naturally, a being's journey, like that of a land creature such as a chicken, follows the simplest rhythm. Each day unfolds in an endless cycle, waking to seek sustenance, finding satisfaction, then resting only to begin again. In this basic pattern lies both the pure essence of existence and its fundamental limitation. When this physical form ceases, consciousness migrates to another winged existence, perhaps as a bird. The same cycle persists from dawn to dusk, seeking nourishment in an unending loop. Through the long passage of time, this essence has traversed countless forms, from earthworms to millipedes, from parakeets to mynas to golden-tongued birds, and eventually to human form. In each incarnation, the fundamental pattern remains, though the vessel changes. Through incarnations as beasts, aquatic beings, and subterranean creatures, we have been all forms. With each new embodiment, we must begin our learning anew. This is the unchanging law of physical existence. When the pure, empty, luminous mind essence has not yet recognized its true nature, it clings to sounds, mental images, arising emotions, and states of knowing, including these very words I speak now. When the mind, unaware of its own nature, inhabits this instrument, it dwells there endlessly, trapped in a world of fabricated thoughts. The pure consciousness becomes entangled in this realm of mental constructions. These constructs then declare, this is our body, this is the left arm, left leg, right leg, even though this mass never claimed ownership to anyone, for it came into being solely to age, sicken, and pass away. This physical form already performs its functions perfectly. Yet the crucial point is that we have come to believe we are this bodily mass. If this body truly belonged to us, then surely we could command it not to age, not to sicken, not to die. Isn't that so? But why can we not make such commands? Simply because it does not belong to us, nor to anyone at all. Isn't this true? This body belongs to nature. This sound belongs to nature. Mental images belong to nature. All emotions belong to nature. This knowing itself belongs to nature. The essential question is, where is our sense of self? There is no self to be found. Do you see? Let the mind answer for itself as we listen deeply to these teachings. One must see that these are simply nature's manifestations, not ourself. No one owns these phenomena. When we establish this truth, we will no longer foolishly cling to these sounds, mental images, emotions, or states of knowing. We will not foolishly cling to anything at all. When we cease clinging to these manifestations, what remains is emptiness, openness, clarity, and lightness. When we grasp this point, realization dawns instantly and brings immediate release. Our consciousness breaks free from these manifestations. Right now, our mind still clings to phenomena, to sounds, to mental images, to emotions, to this very state of knowing itself. As we establish truth while listening to these teachings, our inner strength becomes complete. We understand that as we listen, we must observe within, seeing that these sounds, mental images, emotions, and states of awareness are not us, not ours. We shall not foolishly cling to these phenomena, for such attachment brings only suffering and turmoil. It is this clinging that has caused us to be born again and again without end. From now on, we shall never foolishly cling to these phenomena again. We listen to these universal teachings because our mind lacks understanding and seeks to know its true nature. That is all. Anyone who teaches us that we are not this body, that these sounds are not ours, these mental images are not ours, these emotions are not ours, and this state of awareness is not ours, speaks truth. In essence, nothing is truly us. We are the empty, clear, and pure element. Now imagine this empty, clear, and pure element seeking to know itself. It thus creates various manifestations, such as these spoken sounds, mental images, emotions, and states of awareness. All these are merely phenomena, instruments that consciousness attaches to and dwells in solely for the purpose of learning. The point is to learn both about the external world and oneself. When we come to understand, many have asked why we were born, what is our true purpose, why do we still feel we haven't found the answer? Even with wealth, multiple cars, houses, food to eat, everything complete, yet we still sense something is missing. It feels as though we are imprisoned in this world, sensing that this is not our true place, wanting to leave this world, not wanting to be born again. Many feel this way. The reason our mind, or pure essence, continues to cycle through birth and death in this world is because our pure essence has not yet received its answer. No one has pointed out, revealed, or taught this truth. Now observe within. If I ask who is hearing these sounds right now, observe carefully. Notice within who is aware of these sounds in this moment. At this point, those who understand will experience sudden realization, tears flowing as they break free from these mental phenomena. They will know that this is what liberation from suffering, what non-arising truly means. Then we will realize by ourselves that we were never born. The empty, clear, pure consciousness attaches to phenomena, sounds, images, emotions, states of awareness, using these manifestations for learning. Then these phenomena create mental formations and claim ownership, saying, "This is our body." So I ask you, does consciousness have male or female gender? No, isn't that right? Does consciousness have a name or surname? No, isn't that right? Does consciousness have parents or a mother who gave birth to it? No, isn't that right? Because consciousness is the empty, clear, pure element that merges as one with all emptiness. As I have said, erase everything completely, erase the entire universe. What remains is just clear emptiness. We cannot erase this, for it is the primal element, the original source. It existed before all things. We are that pure element itself. At this point, the mind is a formless essence of life, an immortal element, an essence unbound by anything. To clarify further, the clear emptiness before us now, intangible as it is, holds within it the presence of air. This air represents its manifestation. When the air moves, it manifests as what we call a storm. Whether the air remains still or moves with such force as to create a storm capable of destroying all things, both states are merely its manifestations. All of this exists within the clear emptiness of our mind. These phenomena arise from the mind and dissolve back into the clear emptiness of the mind. When we grasp this principle, that the clear emptiness before us remains untouched, even when the air moves and forms a powerful storm, it cannot affect this clear emptiness in any way. A storm or powerful wind can destroy everything, but it cannot affect the clear emptiness. Even if we were to drop an atomic bomb into the clear emptiness before us, causing it to explode and destroy our body, leaving everything in ruins, the essence of this nature remains untouched. If we can understand this point, that's all there is to it. Understand deeply, truly understand until it reaches the heart. When this knowledge touches the heart or our pure essence, referred to as the mind or the heart, becomes one and the same. Eventually, this pure essence will unravel, and finally release itself from these conditions. As it gradually unravels, listen to the teachings I share frequently, observe, and come to truly understand. The reason we suffer and are caught in an endless cycle of rebirth is that we do not recognize our mind as the pure, clear, and empty essence it truly is. Instead, we become entangled in conditions, clinging to the body, leading to chaos and suffering. Imagine if we had no body, just a life without form, without sound, without images, without emotions, and without sensations of awareness, there would only be the pure, clear, and empty essence remaining. There is no suffering here. If we reach this point, we will feel that our birth has been truly worthwhile. This is the one knowledge our mind seeks to understand. Let us observe within and see clearly that emotions arise on their own and then fade away on their own. No matter the type of emotion, it always arises and then fades away. If the mind does not foolishly cling to or grasp it, the emotion becomes merely something that exists and immediately loses its value. If we can see emotions of satisfaction, dissatisfaction, or neutrality as mere valueless phenomena, and recognize that mental images we conceive as something significant arise and dissolve, we will see their lack of inherent value. Observe the voice, whether it is spoken within the mind or aloud, and see it as merely something that arises and dissolves on its own. Recognize it as valueless, as a servant, a tool serving us. It is like an interpreter, an agent that is not us, a speaker, a thinker, a processor of emotions, and a perceiver. See that these agents perform their tasks independently. When the mind observes that these conditions function on their own, it will begin to release its attachment. If we liken the mind to the tentacles of an octopus that cling to everything, clinging to the body, clinging to sounds, clinging to the mental images we conceive, clinging to emotions, clinging to sensations of awareness, then when we begin to release these tentacles, the so-called tentacles of the self, and stop clinging to the body, we simply let it all go. Now, only this remains as the weight we still carry. The octopus grabs and holds onto things here and there, carrying and burdening itself, which makes it heavy. Once we stop clinging, we let go of the sound. We don't hold on to it. Oh, octopus tentacles, don't cling to this sound. And so, the octopus tentacles no longer cling or hold on to anything anymore. Octopus tentacles do not cling, do not grasp onto mental images. The tentacles release their hold. They let go. They release the sound the mental images once clung to, and the emotions, all our emotions. Oh, octopus tentacles, do not cling. When we, as the mind, cling to these conditions, that is where the attachment lies. When we do not cling to these conditions, these three, sound, image, and emotion, things become lighter. Do you understand this analogy? If we pick up these things, they become heavy, but as we let them go one by one, they begin to lighten. The more we let go, the lighter it becomes, until only the final condition remains, the awareness of the present moment. We simply observe that this awareness hears on its own and perceives on its own. There is no need to practice anything. It is always perceiving. Then, where are we? Let the mind answer. When we observe and casually question it, we can see and understand these conditions naturally, witnessing the nature of things from waking to sleeping. Just observe, even while sitting in a car, and notice how it speaks within the mind. See how it speaks in this way. Observe that it thinks about the tom yum soup to be cooked this evening. See that it thinks. Notice the emotions of satisfaction and dissatisfaction in this moment. Observe the awareness of the present moment. While sitting in the car, perhaps driving, a phone suddenly rings with a beeping sound. As we hear that sound, notice the moment of perceiving it. Our mind is perceiving this sound while the pure essence is performing its function of recognizing what we call sound. At this moment, if we observe the state of awareness, can we see that it knows on its own? When a beeping sound occurs, just that sound alone, it is instantly recognized, isn't it? As it perceives, we can observe and realize, oh, it knows on its own. At the moment the mind first perceives the beeping sound and recognizes it as a beep, a thought arises asking, who is calling? If we observe this state of awareness, we can see that it knows on its own, and the voice saying, who is calling, also arises on its own. If we can see what is referred to as the nature of things and come to know this nature, it is like grabbing a high-voltage wire and yanking the plug out. In the moment it disconnects, there will be a spark, a burst of light. As the pure essence separates from the conditions of awareness, breaking free with a burst, it feels like an explosion in the center of the chest, radiating brilliant light. A certain experience will arise. It will feel completely unburdened, like realizing the truth that we are not human. We once believed we were human, but in fact, we have never been human. We are the pure, clear, and empty essence. This essence has never been male or female, because we have never recognized ourselves as this pure essence, which exists beyond language. This essence cannot speak, has no sound, no images, no emotions, no sensations, nothing at all. It is simply a clear and pure essence. This is who we truly are. As we listen to my teachings more and observe within, following the commitment we have made, we will begin to feel lighter, gradually lighter, as if stepping back from the burdens we have been carrying. In the past we clung to the body, but now we step back and no longer hold on to the body. Emotions that we once depended on, we step back from them too, letting go, not attaching. Whatever the emotion may be, we let it be and step back. When we imagine something and an image arises, we step back, recognizing that even this image is not truly ours. It is merely something that arises within the mind. We step back and do not rely on it. Whatever appears, let it be. Whatever it may be, let it go. Now, the voice speaking within the mind, if we simply observe it and step back without clinging to it, let the voice speak on its own. Just like I am speaking now, let the voice speak on its own. When we step back, we see that all emotions are external, because we have stepped back. They are no longer us, nor are they ours. Mental images too, we step back further and do not cling to them. The condition of sound, we do not hold on to it either. Stepping back, these things become external to us. Stepping back, we encounter something, the awareness that is present now, the awareness that is perceiving. Can we simply observe that this awareness perceives on its own? While driving, if a phone rings with a beep, the moment it sounds, it is instantly recognized. And upon observing further, we realize that this awareness is not us perceiving. At the moment the mind sees this, in that instant of recognition, it knows that this awareness is not itself. The pure essence emerges from our pure state of being or consciousness. We transcend sounds, sights, emotions, and the state of knowing, breaking free from all these conditions. Once liberated, we realize we are the empty space, clear and utterly pure. We are the formless essence, one with all beings across infinite universes. If we imagine the ocean as the primordial essence and take one drop from it to place in the vessel of our body, this is life. This single drop is consciousness, our life essence. Now when we return this life essence back to the water, it becomes one with the whole once again. We cannot point to where our mind is, for consciousness is one unified essence. When we release ourselves from sounds, sights, emotions, and the state of knowing, when we imagine someone making us angry, we see that the anger is merely a condition that is not our true self, just something that arises on its own and fades away on its own. There will be a feeling as if we've transcended our human state, becoming another essence. one that is utterly pure, separate from this physical form and from conditions of sound, sight, emotions, and the state of knowing. These conditions perform their functions, but we are completely detached from them. When one understands this point, tears will flow. When we break free, there is a feeling of lightness and openness, as if we had never been born into this world. What have we been caught up in? What have we all been lost in? This world is one of physical forms and conditions. We have been confined in this world of conditions and physical forms, even though none of these things are truly who we are. In terms of dimensions, we are the pure essence that exists in the zero dimension. The zero dimension is the utterly pure essence, clear and pristine. The conditions of sound, sight, emotions, and the state of knowing exist in another dimension, while the physical body exists in yet another. As an analogy, if the physical body exists in the third dimension, then sound, sight, emotions, and the state of knowing might exist in the fourth, fifth, or sixth dimensions, however we choose to conceptualize it. Do you know that we are the essence of the zero dimension? This zero-dimensional essence has no time, no distance. This pure Dharma essence neither comes nor goes, neither arises nor ceases, is neither dark nor bright, is nothing, becomes nothing, has no spoken language. We become this essence, this utterly pure essence. We simply don't know that we are this essence. This essence requires only this knowing. It dwells in conditions, in sounds, sights, emotions, and the state of knowing. It creates these conditions and then dwells within them, like wearing a garment, a clear garment, like a soap bubble. We are the pure, clear essence. We wear this soap bubble that envelops us. This bubble can ripple with awareness, ripple into sound, ripple into emotions, ripple into the state of knowing, ripple into mental images, but all of these are merely the rippling conditions of the bubble. We are the clear essence dwelling within. This bubble then goes on to reside in the physical body. Then we become lost in these ripples, claiming that we are this body, that we are male or female, that we have parents, have a name, have a surname, yet we are the pure clear essence. This pure clear essence has never been human, has no name, no surname, has never been male or female, has never had parents. Can you understand this? Whoever continues to understand this point, observe carefully, understand further, will feel light, open, at ease. Why this lightness? When someone speaks, you'll know that what you hear is merely something. It arises, is perceived, conversed with, and then passes away. Like when we work, talk with our boss, face many troublesome issues, but once the conversation ends, everything becomes light, open, all is let go, because the sounds that impacted us then were just impacts, right? And now they're gone, aren't they? The sounds we heard, see, they're gone. The sounds being spoken right now, see, they're already gone. It appears and impacts our mind, which is the pure essence. When sound makes contact, it transforms into a state of knowing, then disappears. This knowing is like a rippling in our clear, empty essence. Our mind is the primordial essence, utterly clear and empty. Each time something makes contact, it performs its function of rippling with awareness, then ripples into sound, sight, and emotions. Like throwing a stone into water, plop, it makes contact first, then ripples out in formation. This is the natural way things must be. Yet our minds fail to see this truth. This is the point. The point is that we have forgotten we are this empty, clear, pure essence. We are lost in a world of dream illusions. This analogy is very clear. We are like an utterly pure essence, already pure, but sleeping. It's as if we're sleeping and dreaming that we have a physical body, dreaming that we're speaking within our minds, dreaming that we have parents, dreaming that we're experiencing satisfaction or dissatisfaction, and dreaming that we're truly aware in this way. We dream that we have a body, have parents, have a name, have a surname, are male or female, and were well raised by our parents. Parents taught us to think, to remember, taught us to find food to sustain the body. Then we went to school, where they taught us to think, to remember, taught us to find food to sustain the body. After that, we graduated, worked for money, had a family, had children, and then worked for money to sustain the body. We suffer greatly, and lately the suffering has increased. We wish to be free from suffering, to escape this chaotic world. As an analogy, we begin seeking methods through walking or sitting, as commonly taught. Then, by chance, you heard the teaching from me and came to know that we truly are the mind, this empty, clear, utterly pure essence. We are all dreaming, drifting along with sounds, imagined visions, emotions, and perceptions. We flow along with these states, wake up. None of this has a true, substantial essence. There is nothing tangible here, sounds cannot be grasped, images cannot be held, and emotions, when you try to catch them, cannot be seized. Isn't that so? The awareness that exists simply knows by itself. It cannot be grasped. In summary, we must awaken. There is nothing that truly belongs to us or defines us. Upon hearing this, we might suddenly be jolted awake and realize, oh, everything we've been experiencing was a dream. We once believed we were born into a family, with parents, a name and a surname, and then sought ways to escape the chaos of life, until we heard the teachings from me. Upon hearing this, understanding arises, and in a flash, we are jolted awake. Oh, everything we've experienced was a dream. None of it was real. When we understand this, tears may flow, realizing how much suffering we endured in the dream world. But the moment we awaken, it all vanishes. We are free from all stories, free from all suffering. And only later do we come to see that everyone in this world, or even in realms of spirits and consciousness, is merely lost in these transient states. All of us are lost in these states, clinging to sounds, even though those sounds belong to no one. They are merely servants, functioning as agents, fulfilling their roles, unrelated to us. In the past, we believed that this body was truly ours, didn't we? As our body ages, we become troubled. When illness strikes, we grow restless. We seek beauty and handsomeness through elaborate adornments, hoping to find happiness and feel attractive. Yet we fail to realize that this body was born to age, suffer, and pass away. All along, it has been telling us that this body belongs to no one. It is nature's vessel, temporary in its existence. We are consciousness, an empty, clear, and pure element, fortunate to dwell in this body. Yet we become lost in the pursuit of sustenance and livelihood, never coming to know our consciousness, never discovering our true nature. No one has taught us that we are consciousness, this empty, clear, and pure element. When we finally awaken to this awareness, we realize that nothing truly belongs to us. Nothing has an inherent, permanent self. Though sound cannot be grasped, we sink into its stream. We become entangled with the body, troubled by sounds. Sometimes we play with the sounds in our mind, asking ourselves, when will I have money to spend? When will I find a good job? When will I have savings like others? When will I have a car? Why such turmoil? Why this strong urge to escape from here? When will I find an easy job, working just 3 days yet earning comfortably? We lie alone with these thoughts, sit alone with these thoughts. We are playing with sounds, mere manifestations of consciousness, Mental images are manifestations of consciousness. All emotions are manifestations of consciousness. All perceptions are manifestations of consciousness. In conclusion, nothing here is truly ourself. All of this seems like a dream. As we listen, understanding flows naturally. Observe carefully within. Can you notice how you're perceiving sounds right now? Can you notice how hearing happens on its own? There's no need to deliberately try to hear. Perception occurs by itself. Can you notice how smelling happens on its own? As you walk, when a scent arises, the sensing occurs by itself. When we place food in our mouth, taste arises by itself. The eyes see by themselves. This is consciousness knowing through the windows of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. Our consciousness perceives. It is a most pure element. When something makes contact, it performs its function of knowing. Can you see how this knowing happens by itself? Hearing occurs by itself, do you see? And understanding this language happens naturally by itself. All of these are merely manifestations of consciousness, just as the sun's nature manifests in its radiating energy, its gravitational pull extending outward, its light spreading in all directions, and its heat emanating all around. It radiates electromagnetic waves and magnetic fields. These are its inherent natural characteristics. Our consciousness is the primordial element, an empty, utterly clear original element. It is a pure, translucent element. We are this element, an element that is alive yet formless. It seeks to learn, creating manifestations like bubbles forming, to experience contact and ripple with conditioned responses. Can you grasp this? Sound is merely a ripple in the pure element. The mental images we conceive are merely ripples in the pure element of consciousness. All emotions are merely ripples in the pure element of consciousness. This knowing itself is merely a ripple in the pure element of consciousness. In summary, everything is merely a ripple in the pure element. There is no real self. These are simply manifestations of the pure element performing its functions. There is no owner. Even these words being spoken, there is no speaker, and this is not sound, there is no listener. All of this is merely ripples from the pure element, rippling this knowledge into our consciousness. Our consciousness, which is the pure element, is rippling with perception, understanding itself. When consciousness hears this universal truth, it will understand. It will understand that in conclusion, this knowing is not us, this sound is not us. Consciousness itself accepts that we have no self at all. If we hear consciousness speak by itself saying there is no self, and it truly accepts that there really is no self, tears may flow and we feel liberated, as if breaking free from this world, breaking free from all stories, like breaking free from our understanding that we have a family, have everything in this world, that we've been educated, have abundant knowledge. Everything seems to collapse, revealing that we are this clear, pure essence, unbound by the world. This world can be called a conventional world, like a world of dream illusions. When we break free from this world of dream illusions, we understand everything. This is it, freedom from suffering, freedom from everything. This is how liberation happens, and there will be no more rebirth. We will know with our whole heart that there is no birth, nothing can bring about birth, because there is only purity. Understand this point, reach this understanding. All of us are always present with ourselves. Just observe carefully. Just observe within. Observe how this knowing knows by itself, hears by itself, smells by itself, tastes by itself, feels heat by itself, feels cold by itself. It sees by itself, speaks within itself by itself. It is always present. When the mouth opens to speak, it speaks by itself, thinks by itself, understands by itself. experiences emotions by itself. These things appear by themselves, dissolve by themselves, appearing then vanishing, appearing then vanishing. There is no self in any of these manifestations. May we all instantly awaken to this truth. Let us end here for today. May we all swiftly realize our true nature. May all enlightened ones bear witness. From this moment forward, I shall diligently listen to this teaching, remain awake within, see thoughts, emotions, and the act of knowing as natural phenomena, not self, not ours. I shall not cling to any manifestation. There will be no more rebirth. This life shall be the last. Upon realizing this truth, I shall teach children and acquaintances to stay awake within, not to be lost in thoughts and emotions until my last breath. This is my offering to the enlightened way. Thank you for watching and engaging with these teachings on awakening. If you found them meaningful, we would deeply appreciate your support through subscribing, liking the video, or sharing your thoughtful comments below.